Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group, Gridiron Central.
Welcome to the Gridiron Central, our first show of Season 6 of Gridiron Central. It's our first Wednesday preview show as well. I'm here alongside Matt Davis, my tag team partner. We've been doing this as starting our third year of doing this for the Wednesday show. Hopefully we'll do pretty well today. Anyway, we have a whole slew of games to talk about. We're going to go ahead and get started right now. We're going to start with our Murchie. They're going to be hosting the Tryon Bulldogs. Obviously, this is a non-region game. Tryon is in Region 6A. Our Murchie is in Region 7AA. Kind of a rivalry game. These two teams have played a lot, even dating back to when they were both in that Region 6A several years ago. Matt, what do you think about this contest?
Well, I mean, it's much like a lot of the ones we're going to talk about today. I mean, you could probably flip a coin and have just as much luck as if you really sat there and tried to figure this thing out. But I'll say this. One of the interesting things about this game is both teams are really going to be in transitional periods. And what I mean by that is both of them have new head coaches, although Preston Cash for Murchie came in midway through the season for John Mullinax, who had to leave the team because of personal reasons. They're midway through, so he does have some experience with these players. But the unfortunate thing for him going into this season is all the skill players that played underneath John Mullinax and implemented the triple option offense, they're gone. Zach Payne, the quarterback, gone. Their two top receivers, Hayden Vaughn and Marshall Hudson, gone. They lost their running backs, and they lost a lot of talent, like a lot of teams in 7AA.
Yeah.
So very transitional. As a matter of fact, Preston Cash told me earlier in the week that they've scrapped the triple option. They're going to an I formation, and they're going to try to play to the strengths of what they have now. I think he has some confidence in his team, but at the same time, he also realizes that they've got a lot of work to do to become a good football team, and it's going to be, a difficult transition to get them where they want to be. On the flip side of that, Tryon, similar situation. New head coach Justin Brown, he knows the Tryon area. He graduated from there, and he's hoping for a smooth transition. But they're also going to have different looks on offense, defense, and pretty much everything else as well. I think they may have a few more players coming back this year, skilled players, than perhaps our Murchie does. But at the same time, this is one of those games that's really hard to call. So, I'm going to go with our Murchie in this one, but I have to say that I'm just going strictly on the enthusiasm that I get from Preston Cash and the fact that I really think he's going to do a good job as head coach and playing the strengths of his players. But at the same time, at the end of the day, this one could go to either team. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with you on that. I mean, really, 68% of our U-Pick'em users believe that the Indians will beat the Bulldogs here. One note, Tryon beat Chattooga in the preseason game. Our Murchie lost to Gridiron Central in a preseason game. I don't know how much you can take away from that because I remember a couple of years ago our Murchie lost to Gordon. The same thing happened, and we were like, oh, man, Tryon's going to kill our Murchie. Tryon's going to kill our Murchie. And then our Murchie won by a couple of touchdowns. So all things being equal, I'm going to go with the Indians. I think they're going to be slightly better than the Bulldogs, and they're playing at home. I'll give them the edge. So this game's a little closer. The next one we're going to talk about, probably not so much, is 95% of our U-Pick'em users believe the Calhoun Yellow Jackets, the defending Class AA state champion Calhoun Yellow Jackets, will be hosting Ridgeland, a very good team from, can't remember if they're in AAA or 4A this year, all the region shifts around, but Ridgeland has been to the AAA playoffs the previous 3 or 4 or 5 years. Very good football team. Matt, do you think Ridgeland could possibly be the first team to beat Calhoun in the regular season in 4 years?
Anything is possible. They were 75 last year, 5-0 in their region. They had a good team. And I'm not sure exactly what they have coming back from last year's team, but I don't think they graduated as many as a lot of the other teams around the area. So do I think they'll be competitive in this game? Maybe for a little while. But the thing is Calhoun, I think they proved against Rome the other day that they're just kind of picking up where they left off. They're well-conditioned, they're well-coached, they have a lot of talent, and they've got that great Calhoun community behind this team. And I don't see any reason to think that this won't be another year like you probably had last year. So I think Calhoun is going to be the formidable foe of any team in our area yet again. If you've never seen their quarterback play, Taylor Lamb, I hate to mention just one kid, but for the sake of time, we'll start with him. he's a tremendous quarterback, and he can air it out. They've got weapons on offense that not very many teams in the state are going to have. So I just don't think Ridgeland is going to be able to handle the offensive explosion that you're going to get from Calhoun. And let's face it, they also have a good defense, and I'm sure their special teams, they may take a hit because, of course, their kicker they had for several years, Adam Griffith, he's going on, to be a part of Alabama Crimson Tide under Nick Saban. So I'm not sure what they have there, but I'm sure it's a decent replacement. So I think Calhoun will be solid. They shouldn't have too many problems in this game.
The big thing here, you look at Ridgeland, what they lost was basically their entire offensive line and their entire defensive line from last year. When you play a team like Calhoun, that's going to really come into play. Ridgeland does have Von Bell, who's considered to be one of the top 10 prospects in the state of Georgia. He's a phenomenal athlete, plays both ways, offense and defense. He could pose problems because he's probably going to return kicks. If you can get the ball in Bell's hands, he's going to score. That being said, this looks to me very similar to the Ridgeland-Calhoun games we had 3 or 4 years ago. They had a home and away series a couple years ago. I covered actually both of those games. In both of those contests, Ridgeland hung with Calhoun for a quarter and a half to 2 quarters. Both contests, Calhoun pulled away big in the second half. I see it happening again. Calhoun rolls. They are going to get tested in the early season this year with Ridgeland this week, Dalton the next, and Carrollton the week after that. It'll be awfully difficult for Calhoun to go 3-0. If they do go 3-0, they'll be undefeated when they reach the playoffs. I'm going to agree with you, Pick'em. I'm going to agree with Matt. Calhoun wins. Calhoun probably wins big. Staying in Gordon County, this time going up to Gordon Central, the Warriors hosting Koosa. 77% of our UPick'em users, they may not all be Warriors fans, believe that the Warriors will beat the Eagles. This used to be a region contest. Obviously, Gordon Central has moved up into AAA. Koosa is still in AA. Matt, what do you think about this one?
Okay, well, we'll start with Koosa. Here's a prime example of something I've already referred to a couple of times of one of our AA teams that lost a lot of seniors last year to graduation. They're going to be in a transitional period of time in terms of working in some new players and getting things rolling. And one of the interesting things about Koosa last year was when you look at their schedule and their record, I think they ended up 3-7 for the season, 1-4 in the region. Look at how many games they lost by 1 day, 2 to 8 points or whatever the case may be. It was interesting to look at how many close games that they lost last year. And, this year, I think when they lose games, it may not be as close because they did lose so many players, but at the same time, I know that their players have been working extremely hard to get ready for the season, and Chad Perry is going to have them ready to go. On the flip side, Gordon Central, they have a lot of talent coming back. When I started thinking about them this year, I was like, well, they lost some good players. And then I started really looking at it. I'm like, you know what? But they maintained a lot of the players they had that were contributors last year. DJ Prather, MJ Reynolds, Tyshawn Clemens, just to name a few. With just those 3 guys, you're going to have some speed, some athleticism, and some excitement on offense. Their Achilles heel last year, I think, was on the defensive side of the ball. They gave up some pretty decent points to some teams. And so I'm sure that's been one of the areas that they've really focused on as they were getting prepared for this season. So I think in this one may be one of the easier ones to pick, perhaps going into the evening. I think Gordon Central is going to be too much for Koosa, but I do think Koosa's got some things to build on, and they're gonna do pretty decent this year. But I think Gordon Central is just going to be a better team as they move up to our higher classification to start the season.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. And here's the thing about Gordon Central, and you hit the nail on the head there. Since Gridiron Central has been on in our 6 years, what we've seen from Gordon Central is phenomenal offense, but the defense needs work. Last year Gordon Central made the AA playoffs, lost in the first round handily to a very good football team. Gordon Central's offense is going to score points. They're going to outscore Koosa. At the end of the day, what happens is they have enough talent on offense, they're going to outscore Koosa unless they turn the ball over a lot. If they turn the ball over a lot, Koosa has a chance to win. I still think Koosa has a chance to win, but I think Gordon Central is going to be at least 10 points better. Good win for the Warriors. And I really think that Gordon Central, the question I'm going to see about them is how much did that loss in the playoffs last year affect them? I mean, a lot of times when you lose that badly, it's going to affect you one of 2 ways. One, you're going to work your tails off all year long waiting to get back and prove, hey, yeah, we made the playoffs, we're a lot better than that. Or 2, you're going to tuck your tails between your legs, rest on the fact that you made the playoffs and your season doesn't go as well. I think it's the opposite. I think Gordon Central worked hard in the offseason. I think you're going to see it this year, and they're going to be a factor in that region in AAA. Moving on, this time back to Floyd County, where the Model Blue Devils will take on Christian Heritage. Of course, Christian Heritage, this is their first ever game in GHSA football. They were in another league last year moving up. They have had some success. Of course, Model hasn't had much success at all, hasn't made the playoffs in about a decade, won 5 games over the last 3 years. You do the math, not too good. 80% of our UPick'em users believe the Blue Devils will win. I'm going to agree with them with this caveat. If there's one game tonight, on Friday night, that I think could be a major upset, I think it's this one right here. Christian Heritage can beat Model. Model can't rest on the fact that this team has never played a GHSA game before, because guess what? Model's not that good a GHSA team to begin with. And sorry, you were 1-9 last year. You got to be better than that. Model has players. They also graduated some talent. This is a very tough game for them. They need to win this game. They don't want to lose this game, because the last thing you want to do is lose your first game of the season against a team that's never played a GHSA game. I think Model's going to win, but it would not surprise me one bit to hear that they lose. Matt, what do you think?
Gordon Power's back at the helm out at Model, so there's some familiarity there to him. And let's face it, a few years ago, he's had the only winning season that Model's had in a long time. And I believe, I can't remember if it was 2003, somewhere around there, they actually made it to the playoffs that year and had a winning record. So it's been a long time since then. I'm not really clear on what year that was, but it was not too terribly long ago. But nonetheless, Gordon Power's back at the helm. He's really excited about implementing a new style of offense. He says that they're going to be spreading things out instead of the power I formation that you saw under Lynn Honeycutt the last couple of years. And to me, when you hear a coach say that, he must really feel like he's got some skilled and fast players, because you're going to see that, you got Nikhil and Nakia Watkins. They can run the football. He must feel like he's got some receivers that are going to get out there and be able to catch it and go with it. So I think you're going to see some exciting things from Model this year. Am I predicting that they'll have a better season than they've had the last couple of years? Not necessarily, but I think their hope is just to get better every day, and I think they'll accomplish that, because I think the community, you're starting to see them get a little bit more behind this program. There's a little bit more excitement going into it as the years are going on. And so eventually I really have faith that Model's going to be a contender. It may take some time to get there. Let's not kid ourselves. It may be another year like last year. But at the same time, I think, in the next 10 years or so, you may start to see a shift and Model really starts to pick up. And who knows, this could be the year that you really feel like, well, this was part of the beginnings of that. And so I don't know, man. I feel pretty good about Model's chances in this game, but I'm with you. I think a lot of people are going to just take one fact and make their prediction on this game, and that's the fact that they are coming from what would be considered a lesser, league of football. And perhaps it is, but that doesn't mean that there are not talented teams that play, there. And so they're stepping into a whole different ball game. There's no question about it. GHSA is going to provide a lot more competition for them. It's going to be a tough year in a lot of respects. But I do give them a shot in this game, but I'm going to go with Model, because I think they're going to have a little bit more they're going to have a lot more in terms of experience against playing against GHSA teams, obviously. But I also think they're going to have a little bit more talent, and they're going to be ready for this game and confident and poised and ready to go.
Well, and like I said, I picked Model too. Hopefully the Blue Devils will be ready and they get this first win of the season, which will equal their win total from last year. Moving on, one more game before we go to our commercial break. That is Darlington traveling to play Cartersville. I did not get the UPick'em numbers on this. I apologize. We know Darlington got beat handily last week by a good opponent from Tennessee. Yes, they came back in the second half, but that was probably against the other team's reserves. Look, Darlington's a good football team, but Coach Tommy Yates said at the beginning of the season they could very easily be 0-2, 0-3 at the beginning of the season, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. Here's the thing. Darlington has a great quarterback. Don't get me wrong, they do. They don't have the manpower to match up with Cartersville on the line, in the skill positions, anywhere. Darlington's going to lose. I think they're going to lose by 3 touchdowns. Matt, what do you think?
Well, unless I'm mistaken here, I think last year Darlington lost this game, 28-0?
Yes.
It was a blowout. And that surprised me a little bit, because I felt like last year Darlington had a bit more offensive, explosiveness. I thought they'd get on the board and it might even turn out to be a shootout, and it was anything but that. I mean, it was just Cartersville all the way. This year, I think Darlington's going to get in there and be competitive. And I think that the main thing that they're looking at with this game, of course they want to win, is that they look at it as an opportunity for growth. Much like last weekend. If you look how that game went, they lost the first half hands down. They got pummeled in that first half. They had their meeting at halftime. They come out, they looked like a different team in the second half, and they really hung with that team, and that was a good team. Yeah. You can't even take that for granted. So I think that this will be kind of similar, and that this is going to be an opportunity for growth for Darlington. I think they will lose the game, but with that said, I think they are really going to be positioning themselves in terms of that growth to have a great year in their region. When they get ready for region play, by that time they will have faced 3 teams of higher classification that are, let's face it, they were outmatched in, and then they get ready to play these teams that probably haven't had the road that they have had at that point. So I think that bodes well for Darlington. I think they're going to have a great year once they get to region play. It may be tough getting to that point, but the learning experience they're going to get is going to be really great. When you got a great coaching staff like Tommy Atha and his whole coaching staff, you know, they're going to make sure that the kids get the most out of the experience and don't hang their heads. So I expect great things from the Tigers this year.
Oh, no, and I agree with you. Just because I predict they're going to lose about 3 or 4 touchdowns to Cartersville doesn't mean I don't think they're going to be a great team. In fact, remember, Darlington fans, the last time you started season 0-3, you went to the state semifinals. There is a method to Tommy Atha's madness, and that is we're going to play some really tough teams early in the season, so we're going to play teams that are as good, if not better, than anything else we're going to have on our schedule. That's what they're doing here. Unfortunately, I think they're going to lose again. Maybe they'll surprise me. Who knows? Go to You Pick 'em if you think we're wrong. Right now, we're going to take a commercial break.
Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future. Begin your future at Georgia Northwestern Technical College. We offer degrees, diplomas, and certificates in over 200 programs of study. Choose a career in business, health, industrial, or public service. With the flexibility of day, evening, and online classes at any of our 5 campus locations, getting your education at GNTC has never been more convenient. There are many financial aid options available, including student loans. Apply now. Georgia Northwestern Technical College. Your college, your town, your future.
Sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group. Gridiron Central is sponsored by Georgia Northwestern Technical College, Riverside Automotive Group.
Welcome back to the show. You heard from one of our sponsors, Georgia Northwestern Technical College, the other Riverside Automotive Group. We thank both of these guys for sticking with Gridiron Central. Both have been longtime sponsors of our show, now in its 6th season. And we come back to some more football. Northwest Whitfield at Pepperell. The Dragons, 68% of the You Pick 'em users believe they will beat the Bruins from Northwest Whitfield. Matt, what's your take on this one?
Well, you know, this is another one that's kind of tough to call. Here are my thoughts on Pepperell as they get ready to begin the season. I think they're going to have a solid team, and I think they will be a playoff team at the end of the season. There's a prediction that I usually don't like to make too much at the beginning of the year, especially in a year when you've got so many things that are unknown. But I do think that Pepperell will be that, and here's my reason behind that. They didn't graduate as many starters as most 7AA teams did this year. I think they've got more depth than a lot of teams are going to have this year, which is going to help keep them in games when other teams are getting tired because they have a lack of personnel. But one thing that is an area of concern for me in terms of Pepperell is, you know, they had a tough scrimmage against Darlington, which granted Darlington is a really good team, and I think we learned a lot about both of these teams in that game. But I think that it's going to take a little bit of time with that, what I just mentioned about the Darlington scrimmage and other circumstances that we won't go into, that it's going to take a little bit of time for Pepperell to find their identity this year, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. And so I think after some, you know, things are figured out and some guys really step up and things start to take shape, that I think Pepperell's going to get better as the season goes on. But I do predict that they'll have somewhat of a slow start. And let's face it, Northwest Whitfield, they played some tough opponents last year and did a pretty good job. They went 6-4. And I think they're going to be a tough opponent for Pepperell to begin the year. I think Pepperell will lose this game. But with that said, at the end of the day, it won't surprise me if they find a way to win it. But I really think that Northwest Whitfield will get the best of them.
Well, and I'm actually surprised that you went with Northwest Whitfield because I was also going to go with the Bruins. Look, this is a Class 4A team that missed the state playoffs in 4A by 1 game the last 2 years. That 1 game, crazy enough, the loss was at the hands come from the Rome Wolves. If Northwest Whitfield had beaten Rome in either of those games, and both of them were extremely close, they would have gone to the playoffs. This team has a lot coming back. They're a Class 4A opponent. They're going to go to the playoffs this year, I'm pretty sure. You know, Rome moved up to 5A, Northwest stayed in 4A. They're a good football team. And I'm going to tell you what, they want to win, and this is a game they can win. Pepperell, good team. Their offensive identity, you know, they don't have that smash mouth running back we're used to seeing from them. I think they're going to throw the ball more. They're going to be a solid team, but much like Calhoun and Darlington, Coach Shiflett out at Pepperell has chosen to have a couple of really tough games. They're going to have Northwest Whitfield and Cedartown back-to-back. Those are two really good teams. Pepperell may start the season 0-2, 0-3, but it doesn't matter because, like Matt said, I also believe they'll be in the playoffs. I believe they'll be the number 2, number 3 team coming out at 7AA. I believe Calhoun will be number 1. Big surprise there. But on Friday night, I'm afraid that Northwest Whitfield's going to be a little too much for the Dragons. I think the Bruins win this one. Moving on to our next contest, Rome traveling to South Paulding. Of course, Rome is in Region 5. No, excuse me. They're in Class 5A. I can't remember which region off the top of my head. It might be 5A. I can't remember. Anyway, Rome travels to South Paulding. Wolves starting their season. Every single game Rome plays is a region game, magnifying every win, magnifying every loss. You have to win these games. Typically, in this region, in Rome's region, 7 wins guarantees the playoffs. So Rome has to look at that schedule and say, we got to win 7 games at least. Starting against South Paulding, a team that has got a lot back, a team that's gotten a lot better, a team that a lot of people think might be the dark horse in this region. Rome's on the road. 86% of our UPick'em users think the Wolves will actually win this game. Matt, what do you think?
I don't think it's that black and white, personally. I think when you look at the way Rome got their start this year in terms of, their scrimmage game to start the season against Calhoun, there's a lot of things they know that they really had to work on leading up to this point. And you know that Franco Perkins has had them working. And so I don't think you can look at the Calhoun scrimmage where they absolutely got blown out, had problems hanging on to the football. I think they fumbled it like 7 times in the game. I mean, it was, in some ways, I guess you could describe it as shambles. But I think there were also some promising things there as well. And it makes me think about last year when they played in a scrimmage game against Calhoun. It didn't go well, let's face it. But with that said, the season did turn out pretty well for Rome last year, and they made a pretty early exit to the playoffs in an unfortunate situation. They played some good football, and they've got a lot coming back. So I think that Rome will have a good season this year. They're going up against a tough team. When I looked at South Paulding's schedule from last year, they won some games, but as you looked at their schedule, it kind of revealed that a lot of the teams they played didn't win that very many games. So just based on those few facts, I think that Rome will have the upper hand in this game, but I think it'll be closer than the UPick'em users think it will be.
Yeah, this was a very tough game for me to pick because I was there on the sidelines for the Calhoun-Rome preseason game, and one of the things that stood out to me was Rome wasn't in shape. They had several players go down with cramps. This is 2 weeks before the regular season, and you're playing the defending AA state champs. You should have been in shape by now. Now, granted, I'm sure the coaches got on them. I'm sure they did everything. The other thing about it is that Rome has had a tendency to stumble out of the gates in recent seasons. This is not a game you need to stumble out of the gate with. You have to win this game. If you really want to get to the playoffs, you don't need to drop this game because you're going to have East Paulding in a couple of weeks, and East Paulding is going to be a prohibitive favorite when you play them. If Rome loses this one and then to East Paulding in a couple of weeks, they're going to have a very difficult time winning enough games to get to the playoffs. It's awfully tough for me to say this, and of course here Rome's defense, great. Until the offense can develop the downfield passing game, the offense, Rome's going to have to score points. If Rome can't score more than 3 touchdowns, they're going to lose this game. That's exactly what I said about them last year. It's what I'm going to say about them this year. If Rome can score, let's just say this. If Rome scores 4 touchdowns, they win. If they don't, they lose. I'm going to say they're not going to score that many touchdowns. I'm going to say South Paulding pulls an upset and Rome gets themselves in a very difficult situation early on in region play. Hopefully I'm wrong. Moving on, another key kind of region game. I can't remember what they called them in the ICSGA, which is where Unity Christian plays. But Calvary Christian is visiting Unity Christian up at Shorter. Of course, the UCS Lions last week lost 21-0 to a non-ICSGA foe. But they got in the red zone 4 different times. They just weren't able to score, and 3 turnovers led to those 21 points. The Lions lost a lot off last year's state championship team. Of course, they then had to give the state title trophy back over eligibility issues. What do you think about this game, Matt?
This is another one that's going to be a tough one to call because, there are things that I like about Unity and there are things that kind of trouble me about their situation this year. There's a few notable names that are missing. Jackson Bishop, their quarterback. Also, of course, Jamal Hoskins, who was a star on both sides of the ball, and Zach Chestnut. Those three guys alone, that's a lot to lose for them. However, one of the things that I really do like about Unity Christian is their head coach, Joe Curtis, and the coaching staff that he puts together, and the fact that the kids that he has on this team are eager to learn the game of football. They study it like college kids do, and they're smart kids. And so it's kind of interesting. Last year, you really saw a shift in the team because they worked extremely hard and just really improved. And I think you're going to see a similarity in this team in that respect, you know, as you saw last year. I think you'll see a shift at some point. Now, I'm going to pick Unity Christian in this game. It troubles me that they weren't able to get into the end zone last week, but at least there were some, you know, some shimmer or, you know, rays of hope, so to speak, however you want to put that. So I think that they're going to put things into place this week and start getting on the winning track. So I'm going with the Unity Christian School Lions.
You know what? I'm going to agree with you on this one. You're playing it shorter. And Unity has this good habit, and they developed it last year. The games which Unity should win, they usually do. And yes, they have a young team, but I think that young team is better than what I thought they were going to be. Troubling they didn't score last week, but they were able to move the ball. This week, they're going to get in the end zone. They're going to be playing the friendly confines up at Shorter. I think Unity Christian is going to win. It might be a close game, but I do think the Lions will get the win, which brings us to our You Pick 'em tiebreaker game, the Battle of Polk County. Cedartown visiting Rockmart. 95% of our You Pick 'em users believe the Bulldogs will defeat the Yellow Jackets. And I am not going to disagree there. I think Cedartown is a better team than Rockmart. Yes, it's a rivalry game, and you can take everything and throw it out the window, but you can't take everything and throw it out the window, actually, because Cedartown's the better football team. I think it could be close, but I think Cedartown is going to win. I would say by 10, but I'm not so sure they can kick field goals that well, so I'm just going to say 7. Matt, what do you think?
I'm going to go with you on this one. I think Cedartown will win the game. You can never discount the fact, and nobody will argue against this, that Rockmart is going to put some athletic kids on the field. Yes. They do every year, and I don't know what they put in the water down there, but for some reason there's just tons of athletes that they're able to get for their football team. But overall, I mean, Cedartown should be and is a better football team. It's going to be a close one, but I think at the end of the day that Cedartown will probably end up winning by a couple of touchdowns.
I agree. Our You Pick 'em users, with this being the tie-break game, have chosen a final score of Cedartown 27, Rockmart 16. And that is going to wrap it up. If you would like to play You Pick 'em, log on to PrepCentralOnline.com, where you can click on the contest thing, the contest link there on the home page. Go to You Pick 'em, sign up and play. Each week, the top picker each week will win a pizza from Johnny's Pizza. At the end of the year, your top 5 pickers each week will be entered into a random drawing to win a flat screen TV. All you got to do is go. It's free to play, and you get a chance to possibly win a flat screen TV and a pizza each week. That's not half bad. No. Also, hang out Friday night. We're going to have live scoring updates from all of the games covered by Prep Central Online. And, of course, our first Gridiron Central Saturday scoreboard show live right around midnight come Friday, Saturday morning. We'll tell you all the scores, give you highlights and the breakdowns of all the key action. We'll find out if our predictions were right. We'll find out if your predictions were right. We'll have all of that. And, of course, Prep Central Online, articles, photo slideshows, videos of the games, and Gridiron Central itself. For myself, my tag team partner, Matt Davis, my director-producer, Kevin Myrick, I'm Jim Allred saying we'll see you on the sidelines Friday night.